Welcome, webheads. It's that time again for the most supersonic, hypersonic, and harmonic cybersecurity webcast on the internet. So welcome to Head in the Clouds. So take it away, Jules and Jay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining another episode of Head in the Clouds. My name is Julie Haste, along with Jason Weber, and we'll be your host for today. In this episode, we're going to talk about the Log4J incident that was recently identified as a critical security vulnerability. With us today, we are privileged to have Steve Cantwell, otherwise known as Stack, who is a senior solutions architect and professional services lead at Cloud Harmonics with over 25 years of experience in the IT space. Steve specializes in Strata and Prisma deployments for medium to large enterprise customers. Also joining us is Will Ash, who is a solutions architect with 15 years of experience in IT security. Will is an instructor, professional services consultant, and response engineer for critical customer issues. So Steve, Will, thank you so much for being with us today.
No problem.
At the time that this episode is being recorded, it's estimated the recently discovered Apache Log4J flaw could affect up to 40% of businesses worldwide. So for those listeners who aren't aware, can you explain what Log4J is and what is particularly concerning about this bug?
So on December 9th, right, a remote execution code vulnerability known as Apache Log4J was identified as being exploited in the wild. Generally, by submitting a specially crafted request programming language to a vulnerable system, depending on how the system is configured, the attacker is going to have the ability to tell that system to download and subsequently execute malicious payloads, enough for the adversary to potentially take full control over the system.
So Log4j as a vulnerability is one thing, right? So that's what we've called that vulnerability. Right. But what is Log4j itself? Why is it such a big deal? What's the impact that has on us as a IT industry?
It's a great question, Jason. So you got to understand Log4j has a very large footprint in backend logging. It's incorporated into many widely used, widely open sourced and internally developed applications used by consumers and enterprises around the world. For example, for the consumer base, think about DVRs, your Netgear, your Soho, your Linksys boxes. When you look at the web UI, chances are that was written up it's a Java-based application, so they're going to be affected by it. iCloud, right? When you're uploading and downloading, well, there's remote procedure calls that are occurring, and this is where we're going to see that this vulnerability is very malicious.
So this library is utilized to allow developers to see what's going on in applications, support engineers to see what's going on in their applications that are out there, which is why it has so much access.
Exactly, right. And so from an enterprise perspective, just think about our servers, databases. As I stated, this remote code execution vulnerability has an overarching network and PII, personal identifiable information related security flaws.
So Will, I'll direct this question to you first. What kind of protections or mitigations can be put in place with Palo Alto Networks?
Well, on the host side, XDR or Cortex XDR has a few different protection modules that will protect against Log4j attacks specifically. So like Linux devices, there's a built-in Java deserialization exploit protection module that's able to stop the full exploit chain. On the Windows side, there are a few like our built-in behavioral threat protection rules. If any organization is using the analytics feature, analytics will actually detect any of the post-exploit actions that are related to this vulnerability.
Yep, I'm going to add to that. So from a Strata, right, the firewall perspective, right, Palo Alto Networks, if you have these security subscriptions, the threat protection, we're going to automatically block those sessions related to this vulnerability. If you're following the Palo Alto best practices, there's a BPA tool out there. You're going to gain them with no manual intervention at all. These signatures are going to block at the initial stage of the attack. Right. So please verify, customers, that you have the best practice security profiles with relevant actions, whether it's going to be reset, server side, client side. Additionally, right, sometimes some of these, this code is going to require to be communicating outbound. So for those customers that have a URL categorization or the new Palo Alto advanced URL license, right, then we should be able to block some of those unknown and malicious domains, to block those unsafe external connections. SSL decryption, especially for outbound, is probably very, very important for us to consider, so that we, the Palo Alto firewall, can go in and read and see in clear text what kind of code and what kind of packet are going through the firewall, through the communication.
That would be, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, that would be needed inbound as well, because we want to see that attack coming in. So we would definitely want to be doing inbound inspection.
Sure. Yeah. So we could do both SSL forward proxy and the inbound inspection. Yep, that's correct. And customers with Log4 in their environments could, upgrade or apply workarounds by contacting their vendors that to come up with an appropriate patch, and not only rely on the Palo Alto signatures. And then from a Prisma access perspective, right? The services out there, the Prisma SASE, the Prisma Access engineering team just released an updated cloud plugin. There's a different version out there that I have notes here, 2.10 H24 preferred, or 2.1H innovation, with official support for the new Panorama 10.1.3. And although Palo Alto is suggesting that the panoramas get upgraded to the 10.1.4. And that should help them to mitigate and find a low risk way to mitigate and stay in any supported configurations.
To add to those, XSOR even has a few things in place. Palo Alto Networks developed a playbook that you can download straight to XSOR specifically for the Log4j RCE. It allows us to detect and prevent the vulnerability automatically across XDR, our firewalls, even third-party SIEMs. Most of the workflow is already included in that playbook. So that'll give us threat hunting, remediation, and even mitigation measures that includes links to patches that might be able to immediately allow you to upgrade.
And, I will add this, in my research preparing for this, guys, I've actually learned a lot more about this particular library. For those customers that aren't completely up to speed on the Palo Alto environment yet, who have not been able to completely deploy or in the process of deploying, they did release the version 2.16 of Log4j, which not only patches this vulnerability, but also patches a denial of service vulnerability that was subsequently found. But really, what we should be, what this has really brought to light is the need for companies to start talking about more DevOps, DevSecOps, which is more the space that I play in here at Cloud Harmonics. Being able to not only identify our applications and what libraries are being used in them, but being able to patch them across the board in a relatively quick fashion. I would like to push the idea that we need to rethink how we're doing development and really start to get that out there as well. And with that, guys, that is the end of this particular session of Head in the Clouds. I want to thank you for tuning in and listening, and hopefully you got some relevant information here. As always, you can reach Jules and I at headintheclouds@cloudharmonics.com with any questions or comments that you might have. Thanks, and have a great day.